Morning, everybody. Today we're going to take a deeper look into solving equations for Algebra 1 here. Your warm-up is on this screen right here. You have 3 problems you need to solve. Don't need to worry about the properties here, okay? For number 1, we have 3x minus 4 equals 11. This one we can solve just like normal, and if you do it correctly, your solution for this problem should be, you should get that, x equals positive 5. Okay? For the second one, you're going to want to distribute first, which means you're going to multiply everything inside the parentheses by 3. So 3 times x is 3x, and then 3 times negative 1 is negative 3, and that equals 9. If you solve this correctly, you should end up with x equals 4 as your solution. Okay? Now, number 3 is a little bit different compared to the first two. Here's why. We have 3x plus 1 equals x minus 1. Notice how we have the variable on both sides. So the variable we're trying to solve for is on both sides of the equation here. So that means we would have to move either 3x or 1x, or just x, to one side of the equation. The way we start this off is you want to, I'm going to say let's move x over. Okay, so the way we want to do this is just treat it as if it's just another number, a normal number we're trying to move. So I'm going to apply the subtraction property of equality by subtracting x from both sides of the equation. When I do that, x take away x is 0, so I can cross those out. And then I'm left with 2x plus 1 equals negative 1. Okay, and if we solve this equation correctly, we should end up with this. We should end up with x equals negative 1 as the solution for that equation. Okay, so here are the 3 solutions in the boxes that I put out here. Now let's go ahead and solve equations using the properties but not really writing them out. First equation I want you guys to solve is 3x plus 7 equals 4. Okay? Now remember, we want to apply our properties here. I'm not going to have you write them out. These are equations with variables on one side. So for the first one, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 7 from both sides of the equation. Remember, the idea is with equality is that if I know where my equal sign is, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I can set up a little line like this to show, okay, I've done 1 on one side, I can do it on the other. So minus 7 from both sides. 7's go away on the left side. 4 minus 7 is negative 3. So this tells me that 3 times some number that I don't know equals negative 3. The way I can figure this out is by applying what we call the division property of equality, because this means 3 times x. So the inverse operation is division. So divide by 3, divide by 3. That gives me a solution of x equals negative 1. For the second equation, I have some number divided by 2 minus 4 is equal to 2. So once again, I set up my little line here to show that whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to apply the addition property of equality to remove my positive 4 here. So if I add 4 and I add 4 here, I'm left with that number divided by 2 is equal, let's see here, 2 plus 4 is 6. Okay, and remember, the reason why this works out is because negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So remember, this is a number divided by 2. That means I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that division. So the 2's go away. That means I'm left with that number x is equal to 6 times 2, which is 12. Okay. Now have you go ahead and try negative 2x plus 7 equals negative 3 on your own here. And if you do this correctly, you're going to end up with the following as a solution. You should end up with x equals positive 5 as a solution. Okay, looking at the next set of problems. once again, we have some equations here that are a little bit harder, but that are equations with variables on one side here. Okay? For this one, we have the sum of 5 and x divided by 6 equals -1. Now, this one's a little bit different. The reason being that we have this whole top part right here. Our variable is being added to 5 and also being divided by 6. So what we want to do here is we want to actually get rid of the 6 first. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to multiply, we're going to apply the multiplication property of equality. So I'm going to multiply by 6, multiply by 6. Once again, whatever we do on one side, we have to do to the other. So then I'm left with, let's see here, so 6's are going to cancel. So 5 plus some number x is equal to -1 times 6, which is -6. And then my last step here is subtract the subtraction property of equality. So I'm going to subtract 5 because I need to know what my variable is. So -5. My 5's cancel. And if I solve this correctly, I'm left with x equals -6 minus 5 is -11. And I can verify that by plugging it into my original equation. Let's just double check that. So I'm left with 5 plus -11 divided by 6. And we're testing to see if that's equal to -1. So 5 plus -11 divided by 6. 5 plus -11 is -6. -6 divided by 6 is -1. It checks out. Okay. The next problem I want you to try out here is -2 times the difference of x and 2, so x minus 2 equals 6. Notice once again, just like we saw in one of the warm-ups, that because we have a number on the outside of parentheses, I want to go ahead, take this -2 and multiply it by everything that's inside of the parentheses. Okay? This is only going to happen on one side of the equation because that's where the only place where we see parentheses here. So it's not an equality property here. It's just the distributive property. So -2 times 2x is -2x. -2 times -2 is a +4. That equals 6. So now we have no parentheses. I can go ahead and solve my equation like normal. So once again, I'm going to use subtraction property of equality. So subtract 4. Remember, we want to subtract our non-variable quantities. In this case, -4 minus 4 is 0, so I cross those out. 6 minus 4 is 2. So all I'm left with is -2 times some number equals +2. I'm going to continue my problem over here. If you have more room, just keep moving downward. And now, so I have -2x equals +2. We go ahead and apply division property of equality. So -2 gets divided on both sides. So my -2's cancel, and I'm left with my mystery number x is equal to -1. And once again, we can show this by replacing x in the equation with -1. Let me do that right here. So -2 times -1 minus 2 equals -6. I'm sorry, +6. Let me erase that. Make that a +6. All right, so inside the parentheses gets first order of operations. So -1 minus 2 is -3. -2 times -3, hey, that gives me a +6. So this checks out. Okay. For the next example, I'm going to have you guys do this. I'll give you a hint on this one. It's just like the first exam, or the example before this, but treat this negative sign on the outside, treat that as a -1. So you're going to distribute a -1 here. I'll give you a couple seconds to try this out. And what you should see, if you did this correctly, is you should have gotten x equals +8. Okay, so show you how that works. Give me a second here. Okay, so -1, or the opposite of 8, plus 1 equals 7. Well, -8 plus 1 is -7, so the opposite of -7 equals +7. Yep, that's absolutely correct. Okay guys, so this is part 1 of a video on solving equations without writing out the properties. If you have questions, make sure you ask me, and I will see you guys in the next video.